So the topic is the mind, friend or enemy. So has anyone heard of the verse from the Bible Gita where Krishna explains that the mind can be the friend or the enemy? So does anyone want to kind of explain the verse a little bit? Or?
So it's saying that, but depending on how you use the mind, depending on how much you're able to control it, it can either really help you or can really work against you.
Right, okay, yes. Yeah, exactly. So depending on the nature of the mind, exactly, it can be a friend or an enemy. So actually, I wanted to split you guys into groups. What I want you guys to discuss is first what makes someone a friend or an enemy, and then the second part, so maybe a few minutes, which is how is the mind your friend or enemy? What makes the mind a friend or enemy? Does anyone want to share on the first point about what makes someone a friend or an enemy? Someone who cares about you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What about you guys?
Someone that makes you laugh when you're sad.
Someone who makes you laugh when you're sad. Okay. Someone you can trust. Okay. And what about enemy? What makes someone your enemy? Over here.
They're trying to kill you.
Someone who's lying to you and deceiving you? Okay, so lie, deceit. Okay.
They pray for your downfall.
They pray for your downfall, yeah. Yeah. So they're not a well-wisher, they wish bad for you.
They act as an obstacle in your life.
Okay, yeah.
Someone who gains pleasure out of your sadness.
That's a good one. Yeah, so someone who feels pleasure from your sadness.
Well, I guess like your enemy is kind of, you make someone an enemy because you want them to be your enemy. So I guess you're kind of your own enemy. So that's how you.
So say that again.
The only reason someone is your enemy is because you made them your enemy. It's not because they've been like. I mean, you could kind of overlook what they've done to you and just kind of think of them as a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone's only an enemy if you actually accept them as an enemy. So in one sense, if you're accepting other people as an enemy, then you're almost working against yourself, because you're creating those obstacles almost and accepting them as obstacles.
Yeah.
Is it interesting? Yeah. So I don't know how we would write that. So maybe self as enemies. We can just summarise that as that. Yeah. So self. Misha?
A friend is someone who has a compatible personality.
Sorry, so a friend is?
Someone who has a compatible personality.
Yes, yeah, that's good. Asim, you had that point as well, didn't you? You had that good point actually. Asim was saying the same thing, that a friend is someone who is like-minded, isn't it? Okay, last point. Yeah, last point.
A friend would try to ascend to your level, whereas an enemy would try to bring you down to his level.
Yeah. Because you got an applaud for that. So try to bring you down, and a friend tries to come up to your level and support. Okay. What about how is the mind your friend or enemy?
Your mind can be your enemy because sometimes you can get carried away in a way because it can think without it can make you act without properly thinking something through, so you could do something rash or something you regret afterwards.
Yes.
Your mind will control you instead of you really thinking.
So in one sense you're kind of talking about habits, yeah? So actually the mind has a nature of being able to do things automatically. Who here drives? Or are you guys too young to drive? Yeah. So, you guys know that when you started to drive, when you start to learn how to drive, everything's so conscious, yeah? It's like you have to think, it's like mirror, signal, and maneuver, right? To turn the corner. And then it just becomes automatic. So this mind has this nature of unconscious learning, yeah? So patterns become unconscious, and if they're negative patterns, then it can kind of lead to destructive habits. I didn't really talk what I do in the beginning, but I'm a psychotherapist, and so I see clients on a weekly basis with mental health issues, and I also work with young people, basically all your ages, in substance misuse. And the work that I do is also basically working with negative patterns of the mind and how to break that. And some are so deep rooted, it stems from like childhood. It stems from such long ago. And actually today I had a client who's kind of around your age, and she has this habit of getting extremely angry very, very quickly. And her mind is just kind of programmed in a way she doesn't even realise, she doesn't even think, right? So you guys were saying that you don't think sometimes, right? Your mind just kind of does stuff. And so it's really crucial to kind of be aware of how the mind is, and be aware of your patterns, and be conscious, try to become a little bit more conscious of the patterns of your mind and the way your mind is and the nature of it. So so talking about the subtle nature of the mind. Yeah. So in the Krishna Conscious Society, obviously we talk about the soul, right? And when we discuss kind of what the mind is, it's explained in the Vedas that we are the soul, yeah, and that we have a mind and we have a body, yeah. So when we think of this concept that Lord Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind is a friend or an enemy. Now, if the mind is a friend or an enemy, that means that the mind is something different from me, isn't it? Right? So it's saying that we're not the mind, yeah, but the mind is something different to me, and it can be either working for me, right? Cares for me, I can trust it, it supports me, it helps me as the soul, yeah? Or it can be an enemy, which the first one that tries to kill itself, it lies, false concepts, doesn't laugh very much, it's not very funny. It's probably right actually. I work with a lot of people who are depressed, they don't really laugh very much. So it's working against you, yeah? And so when we understand that the mind can be in different natures, then we can start to work with what we have. So it's really important to actually be very conscious of the patterns of our own mind. The other aspect to the mind is that, it explains in the Vedas that the senses are the gates, yeah? So the mind is subtle in nature, you can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's kind of present there. And what influences the mind are the senses, yeah? So if you go to sleep and you have dreams, right, they're all kind of weird and like a weird formation of like our life and what we kind of interact with. So we see things, we hear things, we experience and feel things, and they're all to do with the senses, yeah? So what we associate with, right, in life creates the nature of our mind, yeah? So, I mean, hands up if you have ever had an experience where you, see someone or experience something and then you have just a weird dream about it. Anyone had that before? Yeah? So our interactions with the world, okay, leaves impressions on the mind, okay, and then that creates our consciousness. Okay? So this is really important to understand, that what we associate with is what the mind becomes. And that's just, anyway. Okay, so that's basically the point, that whatever we associate is what we become. I mean, I've been so fortunate that I've grown up in Krishna consciousness, but I've also been so fortunate that my especially my father, gave me a lot of positivity in my life, in terms of he introduced me to so many sort of positive psychology books, and it helped me so much. This is when I was about your age. I would read so many books on personality types and how to think positively, and how to, think about being just a successful person, and just being the best person that I could be. And that really kind of created who I hung out with and who I didn't hang out with. It created sort of what I thought about myself, and who I wanted to be in the future. So it's very important who and what you associate with. Yeah. So I'm thinking of time. I'm doing an exercise. Okay, yeah, I didn't plan this, but I think maybe go back into your little groups and kind of just discuss amongst yourself what are your helpful associations that impact your mind and your thinking, and what are your unhelpful ones, yeah? And how you can maybe try and make a change. Actually, before you do that, let me just show you another slide. Something that, yeah, this may help. So things that weaken the mind, okay, are like criticizing self and others, okay? So the nature of the mind can be helpful, unhelpful, like sort of positive, negative, and if we understand from the Bhagavad Gita, that there are different modes of material nature, yeah? I don't know if you guys have gone into that. I'm not going to go into that too much now, but it can be in the mode of ignorance, just kind of a bit more destructive in nature, mode of passion, which is kind of more selfish in nature, and mode of goodness, which is more selfless in nature. So the mind can, when it's criticizing, it's kind of very much in the mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So, and that's also criticizing to ourselves, yeah, not just others. So it's others and self. Gossip, yeah, things that weaken the mind, gossiping about others, and lying, yeah. Why does lying weaken us? Because when we're not telling the truth, okay, we then have a guilty conscience. Yeah. Anyone have a guilty conscience? Has anyone ever told a lie?
Never.
You don't put your hand up to
Yeah. So we have to live with just the knowledge, the truth, yeah, and the knowledge of the fact that we haven't told the truth, and it's actually disturbing to the mind. I've experienced people who've lied a lot, and they're mentally just so disturbed, because it's so much more easy and more peaceful just to live a life of just honesty and truthfulness. Srila Prabhupada says actually that's a devotee in Krishna consciousness, or a devotee, a follower of the Lord, should be so honest that if someone says what's in your bag, they should be able to fully openly show what's in their bag. So, living an honest life and being truthful is really important, yeah? So, yeah, get in your groups and just kind of discuss what did I ask you to do? It's been a long week, man. Yeah, so good association and negative association. I'm sorry, again. Okay, so who can share what they've got? Mali, you had a good list going.
We came up with a few things which could be on both.
Both sides.
Helpful and unhelpful.
Okay.
Depending on what you do. So we've got food.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Eating the right foods. Music.
Okay. Okay. So girls.
Media.
Anyone?
The media.
Okay, so helpful or unhelpful?
They
Okay.
tend to influence us.
Yeah. Yeah, the media has so much generally negative impact on the mind, especially on self-image and all that stuff. Okay. You guys? Friends? Okay, what about friends? Okay. Yeah, so the type of friendships that you have are going to very much influence your mind. That's definitely true. Alright, let's go back to boys. Yeah?
I think the things that happen around me, like the attacks in Paris, it needs everyone to seek revenge.
Right, yeah.
Things like things go in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the stuff that's been happening, with the terrorism, I think it has created a lot of fear in people.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, negativity of others.
Girls, can we?
When you see stuff like that, you start becoming negative, like, towards it, like, oh, why are they doing this, why are they doing that, rather than trying to help others, like, to kind of leave that sort of situation. Because you become negative towards the negativity.
Yes, yeah. And often that can be very much based upon the person's consciousness to begin with. If people are already sort of highly anxious, then they're going to, pick up on something to make them feel anxious. So the mind, it's very much the nature of your mind already, which will then kind of codify accordingly with what's in the world. Anyone else want to share? We'll move on.
The HARROW jamming Facebook is generally quite positive.
Yeah.
Lives in my photos. Negative. ISIS is fairly negative.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, and I think actually that's a good point to make, that here, coming to HARROW Jamming, you guys have good association, like-minded, you're all kind of, I think, well, we're talking about topics that is deeper, than just kind of mundane stuff. We're a spiritual society as well, so, we want to talk about who we are and just deeper stuff, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and I'm going to kind of just change a little bit, like what we're kind of discussing, and I think it's going to be helpful. I hope it's going to be helpful. So just talking about the mind is actually influenced in a particular way. Okay, so everyone's mentality is made in a particular way. Okay, and that has very much to do with one's astrology. Okay, has anyone heard of astrology? Put your hand up if you've heard of astrology. Does anyone not know what astrology is? Yeah? Okay, that's fine. I'll just quickly explain that. Basically, according to your time of birth, okay, everyone's time of birth, at that time, the planets are arranged in a particular formation, okay? And the planets, they're not just sort of impersonal planets. They're actual demigods, yeah, who are in charge of influencing humans on Earth. Okay, so you've all heard of Suryadev, Ganesh, yeah. Who else? Chandra, who's the moon, demigod of the moon. So in that way, there are thousands of demigods, yeah? And there are some particular demigods that have power and control and influence on Earth, okay? So there are some particular planets that have influence on how we are as people, yeah? So according to our time of birth and place of birth, the planets will be aligned in a particular way, and that alignment actually influences and kind of basically creates our psychophysical nature. Okay, it's a really deep science. I have a friend actually who's just starting to learn astrology, and he's been telling me so many things, and it's so incredibly deep. It's such a deep science, and it is a science. Yeah, it's not just some sort of theory. And this all stems from the Jyotish Veda, which is a portion of our Vedas. It's extremely deep, but that's basically, in a nutshell, it. So we all look different. We're all different in terms of our mentality and our personality and all of that. So that's all because, that's all because of our different kind of astrology. Yeah?
I thought that was based on karma, so
Yes.
how does that sort of link in?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a really good question. So what determines the alignment of the planets at that time is our karma.
Alright.
Yeah? So our karma influences how we are now. Okay? But the map, of our life would be astrology. Okay? But what makes astrology, why is it that the moon is in that particular place? Yeah? It's because of our karma. Yeah? For example, I can share. In my astrology, it says that I would be a psychotherapist. Yeah, it says it plain and simply that's what I would do in my life. And that's because of a particular alignment of planets. That the moon is next to Jupiter, which is next to... so it's the moon, Jupiter, and Mercury. So it's communication. The moon represents the mind, and Jupiter is guru or teacher. So those three alignment, that alignment means that I'll be sharing, communicating about the mind and helping people like a guru, like a teacher, almost. Yeah? And that has to do with my past life. And I do know that about my past life, but that's a whole other story. Yeah.
What does it literally say that you're going to be a psychotherapist? Or
Yeah, it says that.
Are they what about other people who have the same kind of planetary alignment as you?
Then they'll also
be
in the same
Or
kind of line where I answer questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think you just said how the place that the moon was in for you was based on your karma.
Yeah.
So obviously the place the moon was in didn't only affect you, affected other people. So does that mean that all the people with similar karma are born at the same time? Is that because obviously the moon's at that place at the same time?
Well, it's dependent on. Again, I'm not an expert in astrology, so I couldn't fully answer your question, but it is dependent on time of birth, place of birth, I think my name, and my initials, your first initial, I don't know, something to do with your name. So it's really specific. So it's really rare for someone to be exactly the same. Even like twins, they're still born a few seconds apart, and seconds can make a vast difference.
If it's at the same time, then does that mean the karma is the same?
But that's what I'm saying, there's so many facets involved. It's not just time. Yeah, it's place, and it's also your name, and I don't know, it's different facets. But there may be similar karma, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
But don't you think that when you found out that your astrology said that you would be a psychiatrist, don't you think that influenced you to be a psychiatrist?
I found out after. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to. I'm just saying I found out after.
Well, do you think that they're just kind of reflecting your own personal will, or is it more that they're influencing you to become that
Who?
It's are the planets influencing you, or are they just kind of reflecting is that you're still your personal choice, or are you is that your destiny?
Yeah, so I think this whole topic opens up so much more, basically the whole topic of free will and destiny. Generally speaking, we have things that are destined, but then we also have our free will within that. Yeah. So it's like, think about this, think about a dog attached by a chain on a pole. Yeah? That chain is only so long, correct? So it can't go any further than that chain. Yeah? Does that make sense? But within that area, it can do what it wants.
But what kind of things would influence? What kind of karma would you kind of have to have in order to like become a psychotherapist?
What kind of what, sorry?
Well, what kind of like karma would you have to have in order for you to have? Why would you have? I don't really understand.
I think that's a really long story that I can't really go into. But you know, again, this has opened up a whole thing about karma and destiny and free will, which is so huge. And first, you know, karma in itself is so complicated. You know, it's so complicated. It's not just like, oh, action and reaction. No, it's like, imagine weaves and weaves of threads of interlinking connections and influences. It's very complicated. But let's just go with the. Did someone? No one had a question. You had a question. All right, 2 last questions.
I asked ages ago for evidence of reincarnation, and there was this book called Old Souls. Is there something similar to that, like that you can find for this or astrology concept? Is there any evidence, basically, or any cases where this is
about astrology, or
the idea that sort of astrology, this astrology?
Oh, what's happened? Maybe it's my battery. Maybe it's my battery. Sorry, you wanted evidence on
this sort of concept, how like the planets can determine your future.
There's one book that I know called, oh, I forgot the name. My friend wrote it actually. I have it at home. How to Ruin Your Life with Astrology. I'm just making this worse for myself. No, basically she's an incredible astrologer, and she wrote a book on how people misuse astrology. Okay, and in there she writes case studies and examples of, you know, people in there having their astrology done and then they misuse it, and they, you know, I'm sure you could maybe research. I'm not sure, apart from that book, which has case studies in it. But I mean, I know I'm proof of that. Yeah, you know, I didn't know that being a psychotherapist was in my astrology before I wanted to be. I wanted to be a psychotherapist when I was 14. I didn't know the word, but I knew that I wanted to help people. I wanted to understand the mind. And I wanted to work with people on an individual basis. That's what I understood I wanted to do. And then I found out it was called psychotherapy.
Did you tell the person like you were a psychotherapist before they predicted it? Or
No. You mean the astrologer?
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't exactly know. Okay. Oh. Sorry.
You know how you said your destiny
yeah.
From your astrology. However, if your actions were to differ from that, could that change your karma?
Yeah.
But then
you can change it again. Yeah, you can change it. Yeah, you can change it to certain degrees. Yeah, you may be. There are some parts of it that you can change. There are some parts that you may not be able to change. But when you practice spiritual life, actually, your karmic connections do get broken. So, you know, there have been instances where people are supposed to have got into an accident or died at a certain time, and because of their spiritual practice, because spirituality is beyond material activity and karma, actually they've found that they've just been saved, or because Krishna takes care, actually, you know, when we're practicing spiritual life, it's beyond karma. So it can, but yes, in short, you can change your karma, but some aspects you may not be able to change. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on from astrology. Shouldn't have brought that up. because it is such a big, but actually your questions are really good, and maybe you guys can research more. But my point is, okay, my whole point is that because we've been given a particular psychophysical nature in this life, okay, if you learn about your nature and if you know what your nature is, okay, then you know what you're working with in this life, right? You know what it is that you like, dislike, want to do, have an interest in. You know your skills, you know your abilities, you know your qualities. And if you know it, then it just becomes so much easier to kind of go through life.